This video is based on an article I wrote on my blog. Link to the article is in the description. Why it is important to pray in tongues when you get into a new year. Praying in tongues at any given point in your life is important, but there are occasions when praying in tongues is more important than others. The beginning of a new year is one such occasion. It is the custom of the world to celebrate entry into a new year with parties, but what should be the custom of believers when entering a new year? I've witnessed a number of transitions from one year to another and done experiments. Most importantly, I have tested to see the impact of praying in tongues when entering into a new year and why it is important. There are good reasons why you should pray in tongues to usher yourself into a new year. 1. To integrate praying in tongues into the new year. How you start the year is how you will live through the year. With this being the case, why not start the year by praying in tongues? If you want praying in tongues to be a core activity throughout the year, then start the year by praying in tongues. Don't fool yourself that you can start the year by doing other activities, then somehow manage to make praying in tongues your main priority in the new year. We set priorities of the year by what we do early on. If you want a year of open heavens and being connected to the spiritual realm, then set pace from the first day. 2. To establish your year in the Lord. Each year has a spiritual tag. I'm sure you've seen in a number of churches years being given names. You'll see things like, this is the year of double harvest, this is the year of restoration, this is the year of dwelling in God's presence, etc. While some may mock such practices, they have a deep spiritual meaning. God deals with us based on what we believe. If you believe that a given year is your year of restoration and don't doubt it, the Lord will bring you restoration according to what you've believed. God has His own plans for each year, but He leaves room for us to establish what we want to see. Praying in tongues when entering a new year is a guaranteed way to establish your year in the Lord. The fact that you start the year by praying in tongues indicates that you want the Lord to take control, and He will. If you don't establish your year in the Lord, the devil will deceive you to establish the year in something else. Just know that what you do first in a new year is what your year will be established on. 3. To create a faith anchor. Each year is guaranteed to have trials. But did you know that you can secure success for all your trials in a year simply by praying in tongues at the beginning of the year? When starting the year, pray in tongues and assure yourself that whatever happens during the year, the Lord will remember that you began by seeking His face. That way, no matter what evil comes, the Lord will not let it wipe you away. God works with covenants, and if you covenant a year to Him, He will make sure your faith doesn't fail. The devil knows this principle, and that is why he will always try to deceive you to start the year with other random activities. He knows that if you don't make a covenant with God at the beginning of the year, you will have an easy time draining your faith. The Bible tells us of the story of Moses, who was destined to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. Because of the destiny upon his life, even without his knowledge, the Lord saved him from death countless times. When you have dedicated yourself to the Lord in a new year, the Lord will save you throughout the year, even when you don't ask for it. You will sail through the year with confidence, knowing that your faith is built on a solid foundation. 4. To align yourself with God's plan in the new year. As I mentioned before, God usually has plans for each year, but He leaves room for us to add our own twists. Since the will of God is mysterious, setting yourself to work according to it in the new year is hard, unless you pray in tongues. When you pray in tongues at the beginning of the year, the Holy Spirit helps you align yourself with what God has in store in the new year. If God's wrath is kindled and He intends to send a punishment in the course of the new year, if you pray in tongues, the Holy Spirit will lead you to pray for God's mercy. When God finally executes His plan, you will be spared the same way Lot was spared when Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. We live in an evil world, and the only way to be safe is to stand on the side of the Lord. But how will you know the side that the Lord is on in the new year if you don't pray in tongues? Praying in tongues when entering a new year will align you with the major spiritual shifts that God has planned for the new year. Align yourself with them by praying in tongues when crossing over into the new year. 5. To secure your spot in spiritual battles. It should not be a surprise to you that spiritual battles happen at 3 key stages: at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. The Bible has many examples of spiritual battles occurring at these 3 stages. The life of Jesus is the best example. Spiritual battles over his life were intense at the beginning, just before he began his ministry, and at the end. The timeline of a year is also subject to this spiritual conditioning. A lot of spiritual battling happens at the start of the year, in the middle, and at the end. If you pray in tongues at the beginning of the year, you make it easier to have success in the battles of the middle and at the end of the year. If you pray in tongues fervently at the beginning of the year, devils will be afraid to attack you in subsequent battles during the year. If you don't pray in tongues at the beginning of the year, the opposite will be true. Therefore, always remember to soak yourself in tongues when you cross into a new year. Until next time, peace.